After a month hiatus, the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, we are back, folks. And with all the things that's happening this month, we're not short of things to talk about. So stick around because this is going to be our premiere episode of season 3. Let's get into it. And welcome back, folks, for our season 3 premiere of the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, coming to you live each and every Thursdays, 8 p.m. weekly. As we do each and every year, we like to take our month's hiatus in January for some R&R. But now that it is February 2nd, 2023, we're back to do what we do. And that's talk all things professional wrestling and some combat sports, but y'all get it. But I am Nigeria alongside of Will and Jamal. Gentlemen, welcome back. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
Yeah, for a month off and we still tired. That is always a common theme here. There's too much to keep up with. I tell you, there is a lot going on, so we are going to have no shortage of stuff to talk about tonight. That is for sure.
I tell you what, man. I mean, we all watch as much wrestling as our life permits or we desire. But I tell you one thing, man. I definitely, for every bit of moment I wanted to like really get back immersed into things and get into the flow of things, I had to stay on social media, man. This is way too much arguing and just negativity and crazy narratives that like it just sucks the fun out of this. But you know, that's why we come together each and every Thursday, because I feel like we put together a show where we just sit back, have fun, talk about our 3 to possibly more of the hottest topics weekly, and stay away from all the negativity and all that hoopla that goes on social media. But on that note, you can find us on social media on all platforms, Big Gold Belt, as we're streaming live on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Twitch. But yeah, since this is not really a topic, but we got a few moments here since we have been gone. What's everybody been up to? What have y'all been doing in y'all spare time? And or if you want to keep it wrestling related, what's been the one thing that kind of caught your eye in this month hiatus? Will, we'll start with you.
Oh, geez. I mean, I think enough stuff happened last weekend in and of itself to take up things that would catch your eye, which we'll be talking about a lot tonight. Other than that, man, I went down to Universal Studios. I got to pay tribute to the Impact Zone in person for Hobo's 10th birthday. So that was interesting to see, like, that the Universal Studios lot where they would film Impact and how now they film AEW there. How it is literally like feet away from a roller coaster. It's like right there. So that was interesting to see in person finally.
Yeah. What about you, Jamal?
Well, this month has kind of flown by, but this, just some other, some personal things happening, and just a lot of, some setbacks, some progress, But as far as the wrestling goes, DDT has been absolutely killing it, and TJPW has been absolutely killing it. And then, of course, Wrestle Kingdom happened, but we don't talk about that.
That feels like a lifetime ago at this point.
Did it. For myself, I had a birthday, so I did enjoy getting older. And while that was fun, like I said, I tried to like dabble back into things and see what's kind of going on in the wrestling world. But like every time I step on social media, it's like somebody's always arguing about who likes what and who don't like what and da 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 da. So kind of really did take the month to kind of stay away from it all. But if you've been following us here at Big O Belt Media, you know, like the work ain't been stopping. So I've been covering tons of movies, tons of shows, and I am tired, as Jamal said. But anyway, let's get back on track as we are here for our premiere episode of season 3. And we're starting it off with, as you mentioned last week, the Royal Rumble, which is the beginning, the road to WrestleMania. And listen, folks, if this is the first time you're checking us out, we do not do like a whole recap of the entire show, but we will talk about what stood out for us, whether it was good, whether it was bad, just what was that thing that really resonated with you to take away from the pay-per-view. One of my favorite pay-per-views. I did go last year, St. Louis. I didn't have the bandwidth to go this year. I did have a few folks ask, was I going to come out and cover it as media? I just didn't have it in me, man. I don't know what it was. I just had no desire, but it looks like it was a lot of fun. And the show itself was, you know, it was okay. I enjoyed it. Felt really long. I think I cut my TV off at damn near 12:30.
Yeah, it was a very long show.
Imagine
excessively
that.
Long.
Imagine that, and then hitting the scrum afterwards. Like I just don't desire these things. I don't know. Yeah, starting off with you, Jamal. Coming out of the Royal Rumble, what was that one thing? The big surprise, the big moment, the big tidbit, whatever it is. What was it for you?
Now Jack's coming back.
Damn right.
Number 30.
Damn right. Damn right. You would have thought you were tweeting. Every pick, I say, when is she coming back? Damn right. Let's hear this one.
Well, see, it's the thing. It is a surprise that she's coming back, because if you let her tell it, she wouldn't be back. If you let WWE tell it, she wouldn't be back. And if you let the fans tell it, she wouldn't be allowed to wrestle again. And then there she is. So I think that whether it's a pleasant surprise or not for you, it is still one of those surprises. Unfortunately, it was in a Rumble that really didn't have a lot of surprises. It didn't really have a lot of those moments that kind of the Rumble's kind of known for, where you go like, oh, remember when that happened? You know, it's usually who starts off number 1, who comes in number 30, and what little bullet point spots happen during the middle. And Nia Jax in the Women's Royal Rumble was a big highlight for me. Another surprise for me was the lack of NXT people. I think that NXT for the first time in a long time has integrated itself in the WWE ecosystem. They definitely look like more of a WWE product now more than ever. And even if you don't, whether they win or not, they're not going to win. But just to get some eyes on them, just to give them that experience.
And you're clearly talking about the men's Rumble. Because at least the female had some, but I mean the men's Rumble.
But just to get them, that experience, I'm surprised that nobody from NXT showed up. And it was like it wasn't a deal breaker, but it was an odd choice considering that they're trying to make some names and make some waves down at NXT. And it was NXT kind of got ghosted in the men's Rumble. And I thought that was an interesting choice, especially since it was a perfect opportunity to plug their premium live event, which happens this weekend.
Yeah.
It was definitely an odd choice, given they've had those big moments in like past years where like Keith Lee showed up, or random different people from NXT got their almost come up. It might not have been their complete coming to the main roster, but they got their taste. And we only got that on the women's side with like Roxanne Perez and what's her face? Zoe Stark got her
Indy Hartwell.
Yep. Yeah. Only on the women's side. So why they stayed away from that on the men's, I'm not quite sure. You would think at least Braun Breaker maybe at least would have gotten a little appearance, being he's, the big champ. And hell, he's been on Raw before, but nowhere to be seen at all.
Yeah, it's just, I give it to you in a second, Will, but to me, it's like, it's clear that there are different people booking the men's and women's Royal Rumble. And because the philosophy of the two of them are drastically different, where the men's Rumble feels like the road truly to WrestleMania booking, like you're setting all the pieces of the puzzle up for your potential matches for WrestleMania, where the women's Royal Rumble is booked more traditionally from what we expect from the Royal Rumble. you're going to have some legends. You're going to have some call-ups. You're going to have some face-offs that you never would have thought, essentially dream matches within it, and still within the context of setting up your matches for WrestleMania. And I think like it's truly when you think about the identity of the Royal Rumble, the Women's Royal Rumble always and thus the last few years have encompassed what we are truly tradition for the Royal Rumble to be. I mean, Michelle McCool, which was something I said before the Royal Rumble started. I said it would be nice if she's in a Rumble. I watched the previous 2 Rumbles before that Rumble started, and Michelle McCool had really 2 good outings the last 2 previous years, and I'm like, she could probably have another run. So they show her ringside. I'm like, oh well, that's unfortunate. Just for her to have a surprise to come in, I'm like, well, no one saw that coming. So you had the surprise, you had the legend, you had the call-ups. Roxanne Perez getting an amazing pop, by the way. Might have been the biggest pop outside of, I don't know, maybe Becky on the Women's Rumble. And all of it just made it just so much more enjoyable. It's not to say that the Men's Rumble wasn't good, but it just wasn't following the same, what the fans, I guess, were expecting. And not to say that fans should book it, but like, it's the Rumble. It is one of the premium live events that we are expecting certain things to be. And it worked. Didn't think there was any reason to fix it. So, but Will, for you, talk about your surprises or just the things that stood out for you in the Rumble. The Royal Rumble.
I would say now, as far as the men's Rumble go, though, the big surprise to me, I would say, would be them going all the way with Gunther. Gunther got his like coming out party in the men's Rumble, where it was like, you may not be winning the thing, but you are going to get the spotlight on you from beginning to end. And they'd already been going hard with him as like Intercontinental champ and making him, stand out and getting over his, physicality and all this. But I think at the Rumble, they took that all to the next level, where now he's like, I think, firmly trenched as, he's not going to be the tippy top guy, but he's going to be in that top mix of like regular guys, I think, going forward, that they clearly have a lot of confidence in to give him that much of a spotlight all damn night from beginning to end in that match. That was, to me, the biggest standout. That was just Gunther. Like I knew they were into it, but to that level where it's like, oh no, they are way behind Gunther, which is good to see. It's good to see, since you can put him in there with anybody. So it was a very pleasant surprise to see him get like way bigger of a spotlight than I ever would have expected.
Yeah, let me get in the comments real quick because my cousin is through here. What's up, Trent? My actual cousin coming through, showing love for the podcast. Listen, I think Rhea Ripley was a very highly betted favorite to win the Women's Royal Rumble. I think about when the day I knew Rhea Ripley was a star, and that goes back to the Mae Young Classic. I was sitting next to Dr. M. Marcus, who's also a part of the Big O Belt Wrestling Podcast team, and this was the Mae Young Classic when Tegan Knox was supposedly booked to win that. She had the injury, and she was facing Rhea, and Rhea truly came out as a heel. They worked it so that Rhea came out as the monster heel who had no bit of empathy for the situation at hand. And she went on to face, I think it was Toni Storm that one, who was the person who didn't need to win because Toni Storm was already on her way. She was already favorite and whatnot. Tegan is somebody you could have elevated with the win, but obviously Rhea being the heels is something you can build without having to win, just by going over, by getting the crowd reaction. And the way how she took this moment, that with the extent of Tegan Knox's injury, and really, really shining in that moment was, and how old was she then? Probably 21, if that. Just to see her all these years old to this point now, seeing how she just clearly comes out of the Judgment Day and is the bright star. I mean, Dominic Mysterio is even relevant right now, and I really didn't have a lot of faith in him, but I mean, I think he's interesting to watch now, and I think his skills came along, but. Man, you would think Rhea is like a 10-year vet at this point, just the way how she operates in every position that she's in. And she even had one of the best finishes in the Rumble that I've seen in a long time. I want to throw it to another comment. I'll let you read this one off, Will.
Oh, I met Alicia Fox and Eve Torres randomly at my gym in Johnson City, Tennessee a few years ago. Brett Bales throwing that in here. Now, those two faces that Alicia, I think, wasn't she in there last year? I think.
Yes. Yeah. Good to see her. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Not this year. Nowhere to be seen this year as far as a returning legend again.
Yeah, Booker T coming out for the men's rumble was funny because on the pre-show he said he was waiting for the call and he comes out, and obviously him being from Texas, this just makes sense. I'm just mad that when he came out, he didn't do the raise the roof with the flames that came out. I mean, he in his hometown, man. Come on, man. Reek every moment of this opportunity here and shine. But he just came out casually and got thrown over. And God, it's crazy to see how big Booker T towers this new generation of wrestlers. And also Booker T still wrestling at Reality of Wrestling, his wrestling school. So this was no rust to be knocked off for him entering the Rumble. Just didn't get to do a lot. But yeah, I don't want to add too much. I will just say the pitch black match.
Oh God.
Dew, I didn't hate it. I thought it was creative.
It was short. I'll give it that.
It was creative, man. I thought Bray Wyatt and his aesthetics for it worked. I thought that LA Knight worked his part. Not mad at it. The ending was wonky, but I wasn't there for it, nor do I think this match was for us. I think it was for the kids. I'm sure the kids loved it and was spooked out by what Bray was doing and how he sort of monstered up once he got the red face paint and was just immune to kendo sticks. But I didn't mind it, a little different. The entertainment part of WWE was definitely right there, and I was, cool with that. So, anything else you want to add to the Rumble? Y'all ready to get to our next topic?
Well, I'd say I've never really been a big fan of the Rumble because of how formulaic it's been over the past few years. But this one was more of the same. I thought the pitch black match wasn't necessarily something that I needed. But it is interesting, but it's not surprising from WWE. They've done stuff like this before. And considering that it is Bray Wyatt and LA Knight, two like characters, you're not going to get this isn't like, Gresham versus Davey Richards, in a pitch black match. This is, two characters. Yeah. So I'm okay with it being what it was. And I think, and WWE just had their earnings call, it's still a business. So anybody that wants to do a thing and have them come through, WWE is obviously not above, getting into bed with, a company to make some money, to make some magic happen. If they're willing to fly the whole damn plantation over to Saudi Arabia, they absolutely will take Mountain Dew's money to put a black light match on in the ring, or get, Mrs. Fields to, do the Thanksgiving food fight, or the Honey Baked Ham Company. or whatever it needs to be, but
the Aunt Jemima pancake flipping match.
Well, we don't talk about Aunt Jemima no more, but
that's right.
Yeah,
or Uncle Ben, right?
We had to retire her, but either way, I didn't hate it, but as the Rumble as an event it's kind of whatever. But I think the biggest thing out of the Rumble, of course, is started the road to WrestleMania, which is exactly what it's designed to do, and for what it's worth, it did a good job of that.
Yeah. As we go into our next topic here, we do have our winners of the Royal Rumbles, respectively, Rhea Ripley and Cody Rhodes. Are y'all, if you had to change the winners here, would you, and who would it be?
I'm not changing Rhea. Rhea, I think, is perfect in her spot. Yeah. The men's side, there is definitely talk that you could have done something different on the men's side, but at this juncture, I don't mind Cody as the winner. As far as like who was in it. If we were going to change it, we'd have to add other people to the match. But as far as who was in the match and the people available in the match, I'm fine with Cody as the winner.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't know. I just don't watch WWE enough to say who I would change. I'm not a fan of Rhea Ripley as a gimmick. And obviously, if you have Nia Jax in there, then how is she not winning? As far as Cody winning the Rumble, I would not have done that. And when we talk about the aftermath of the Rumble, I'll go into a little bit of why that was. But I think that Cody winning the Rumble is a bit premature because other business needs to be sorted out before we get to Cody. And I think that they have. Well, it'll be interesting to see how they play that out. But who replaces him? I think it would have been interesting to see Gunther run the table. And
That's
have
what I was
him.
saying too. I would not have been mad. I think I was around like the 26th entrant, and I just sat back and said, you know what? I would not be mad if he just won this now.
Yeah, because everybody else in there, and I'm looking at the list now, is generally busy. So it's not like, well, Otis isn't winning, Elias isn't winning, Ballinger isn't winning, you know, Damian Priest isn't winning, but Edge doesn't need to win. But you know, if it's in Austin Theory's busy and so on. So yeah, Gunther, he went an hour and 11 minutes. So why not have him go through? And they got rid of Brock early, so that's fine, no problem in that. But I think that's what I would have gone with.
Yeah. Talking about Cody, who did win here, and as our next topic goes into it, before we get to our break, folks, you know we do our break at half here. Cody Rhodes being the right guy to take over for Roman Reigns. This is in our topic notes. However, I don't even agree with the premise of that question, because I believe the real question here should be, is Cody Rhodes ready to be the face of the company? And that's what.
Well, if you ask him, of course he is.
Right, for sure. But I mean, as we talk about business here, whoever is to the throne, the tribal chief, is a business move. It's not a wrestling decision. It's at WrestleMania. It's definitely not a wrestling decision, because it is all about the big spectacle. It is about being in Hollywood. It's about that person who's taking WWE into the next regime of being the face of the company. Last year, we talked a lot about MJF being the face of AEW, and I'm pretty sure there's no reason to ever have to bring that conversation up again, because I think that's just dead in the water at this point. But when I look at Cody, yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, damn, for a month, maybe we had another conversation to come back to 2023. Doubt it now. That one's dead. That would be beating a dead horse here. But for me, and I'll throw it to you, Will. I think that what we're seeing for Cody and what we knew about Cody coming over reeked a DNA of somebody who could be the face of the company, from his media work that he had already established, from his legacy of his name, from the legacy that he's creating now with his, his legacy with his last name, and the legacy he's creating with his first name, from their family, their household, the reality show stuff that he's done. That right there enough is to say, okay, Cody probably could do something, coming from AEW, coming to WWE, bringing some of the DNA, some of the, should we say, the pillars that he's established, not the people pillars, but some of the pillars he established in setting up AEW to be what it is, and bringing that philosophy over to WWE. One, I think, it's got to be the scrum. I think that's definitely had to been Cody's, decision to say, hey, I think this is a good idea. And you see everything that Cody's done recently, Cody wants to talk. He did not want to leave that seat at the scrum, which means that he is ready to be in front of the camera and talk about everything. He got like 3 or 4 montages and vignettes about his return.
As we have said many a time, Cody Rhodes enjoys being Cody Rhodes.
For sure. Sure.
There's no doubt about that.
And now, and I give it to you, everything we're seeing him doing in big media. WWE has been buzzing for all the right reasons right now. The financial income earnings and everything, and the result of what happened in the Royal Rumble, and Cody Rhodes is getting out there talking. So is he the right guy to take over for Roman Reigns? If not him, then who is my question? Because it has to be somebody, and it certainly don't think there's nobody with a bigger brand, and I don't mean brand like Logan Paul, because yes, that's probably the biggest name on their entire roster, period. But I mean a brand that reeks wrestling DNA, wrestling royalty, but also entertainment value. It's got to be Cody Rhodes. What's your thoughts, Will?
I agree with you that I can't think of anybody else on the roster in a position to take that ball right now and run with it. That said, just because Cody has won the Rumble, I am not convinced that he is necessarily going to beat Roman Reigns just yet. Because there is a lot of stuff in play. And as Jamal mentioned a few minutes ago, Cody just came back. We had 6 months of Cody not being around from him being injured, which I think in a lot of ways probably has benefited him right now. We just got the Cody Rhodes following the playbook of Triple H coming back from the quad tear. Only thing it was missing was the YouTube Beautiful Day video they played for Triple H back then. But he's following the same playbook. He came back from a major injury. He got the comeback announced beforehand. He's won the Rumble. He's going to WrestleMania. So he's following that blueprint that Triple H did back in, 2002, I think, when that happened. I don't know necessarily, though, if he is going to end Roman Reigns just yet. Now, maybe there'll be some twists and turns between now and then. Hell, from the beginning, I remember last year when he showed up after WrestleMania. He made the big point about he was there for the title Dusty never won. He was there for the WWE title. I keep going back in my head to the Universal title don't got to figure into this for Cody to complete his mission, to complete his quest. He only needs one of those belts. We got 60 days between now and WrestleMania right now. A lot can change between now and then. But if nothing even does change and it's still for both belts come WrestleMania, I don't know if Cody necessarily realizes his dream just yet this time around, because there is a lot of meat left on the bone with Roman Reigns, with the bloodline that we will get into later tonight. And I can't see it all being neatly wrapped up in the next 2 months, because there's a lot of good stuff left to do. But outside of Cody, I can't think of anybody else really in the position to do it at that level.
Will, without giving context, if we say that the bloodlines, let me kind of get in camera here. We say that the bloodline's right here, and no one can achieve this level of success. And Cody Rhodes is right here, but he's the next person up. And you're saying you don't think he can get to this point in order to overthrow the bloodline yet, Roman Reigns. Could this next couple of months be about doing this to the bloodline? Which is why we see. It might very well be.
It might very well be.
Which is why
we had cracks forming this weekend. So we'll be talking about that. There is a lot of time between now and WrestleMania. How many times has the card that we thought we were going to get at the Royal Rumble actually happened come WrestleMania? A lot of shit changes in that time in between. So stay tuned, folks. Get out of the way so Jamal can get in here.
Yes, sir.
So the simple truth is, the reason why I asked the question is because Cody Rhodes was brought into WWE in the same way that CM Punk was brought into AEW. And he was brought in he doesn't necessarily need to put the company on his back and elevate the brand or anything like that and break it through to the next level. However, he's the only guy in wrestling right now that's a mainstream enough for casual Americans. And I say specifically casual Americans because if Okada shows up or if Jay White shows up, that's a big deal to a small audience. But for casual Americans that follow wrestling, they know a Rhodes when they see one. So with that said, he was brought in this coveted instant star position at the top of the mountain to be the star within the wrestling world what it is. Not the same as CM Punk, but damn close. So because of that, not only is the question whether or not he's the right guy to take over, and if not him, then who? The problem is with WWE, and this is a good problem to have, is that the bloodline story between Sami, Kevin Owens, and the rest of the bloodline is so hot. What do you do with that versus what you brought in Cody to do? They did not bring Cody in to do anything else but be WWE champion. Period. They don't need him to sell T-shirts.
I would say a brand ambassador.
What I'm saying, they don't need him to sell T-shirts. They don't need him to go to NXT. They don't need him to speak Mandarin. They brought him in to be the face of the company for what it's worth. So because of that, they do have 60 days. But Elimination Chamber and the subsequent SmackDown before it is in Montreal, Quebec, Canada at the Bell Center. Hometown of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens.
Absolutely.
That's happening in 2 weeks. So, yeah, sure, card subject to change, but it ain't serendipitous that lined up that way. We'll talk about it after the break, but the long and short of it is, if it's not going to be Cody, then what do you do with Sami? That's why those two questions came back to back like that. And then we can talk about, and I have a theory about that, but let's do that on the other side of the break.
It is a good problem for WWE to have, folks. That's the bottom line here. Yep. But you know what it is? It is time to get to our commercial break. When we return, we got more topics involving the Royal Rumble, involving the Bloodline. But yeah, we'll see y'all in a second.
If you're looking to expand your podcast reach, your website reach, as well as your social media branding, visit BigGoldBelt.com for sponsorship and advertising opportunities. Big Gold Belt Media is the golden standard for all of your media needs. We offer pre-roll and mid-roll ad spots, on-air host reads done by yours truly, Damian G, on audio as well as video platforms. For inquiries, please email biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com for more information. Again, that's biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com for your inquiries for your business. Big Gold Belt Media, wrestling, movie, comics, and more. The golden standard.
All right, folks. Welcome back to the second half of the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. And before we get into our second half of the show and topics, we like to take a moment to focus on advertisements, sponsorships, and our special segment in the Indie Spotlight. So, Jamal, I'm going to give it to you for the Indie Spotlight, and then I got a little bit of ad there, and then we'll get to the rest of our topics.
Okay, so we are going to go this week to Jersey City, New Jersey, on February the 11th. It's the Jersey Championship Wrestling Jersey J Cup. It's two shows. Part one is at 2 p.m. at the White Eagle Hall. That's 337 Newark Avenue in Jersey City, New Jersey. Part two is at 7 p.m. Should be a good show all around, and tickets are still available, so get them while you can. You can find out tickets at the GCW Game Changer Wrestling Twitter, or of course at the Jersey, that's GCW Wrestling _. You're going to have in the opening round of the Jersey J Cup, Starboard Charlie versus Joey Janela, which should be a lot of fun. Mike Bailey versus Jonathan Gresham, low-key match of the year on paper. Leo Rush versus Tony Deppen, that might actually steal the show. It looks like a hell of a card. I might have to sneak in, because I will not be watching the Super Bowl. So two shows, 2 and 8, Jersey J Cup, White Eagle Hall in Jersey City, New Jersey. You can get your tickets from GCW at Game Changer Wrestling _ on the Twitter machine. They have links to everything for the Jersey J Cup, part of JCW's event. Two shows, 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. up there in Jersey City. That's your Indie Spotlight for the week.
Right on. Hey, listen, I'm going to be working on my aesthetic in the background in a little bit, fixing things, switching things up a little bit. But once it's ready to go, I do have some new decor that I'm be posting up, and that takes my attention to moviepalette.com, which they do fantastic work here at moviepalette.com, where you can get these movie palettes that consist of stripes of colors that are carefully chosen by their team of artists, which basically represents a particular color for each scene of a film. So it's this fleshing, like if you ever look at like how that glimmering shot of the Netflix logo looked like, except it represents the different scenes of the film. And like the closer you get up to it, the more detailed, but yet just how cool it looks once you really get up on it. But anyway, you can check out all of that, find your favorite film, and get your own at moviepilot.com. And because you heard that here, use the code GOLD15 to get 15% off. That is our discount code here at Big Gold Belt Media, to get you 15% off any product on their site. That information is on the description below. Check out moviepilot.com and get your palette now. Folks, let's get into our second half of the topic here, which truly is the second half, because it is like the part two of the first half of things. So the Sami Zayn problem, shall I call it? And I said it's a good problem. What to do with Sami? There's been a lot of comparisons. You, Jamal, saying that Cody Rhodes sort of gives you CM Punk vibes in terms of the reason they're brought in. Sami Zayn has been frequently compared to Daniel Bryan. And sort of just, the boom of really getting over with the audience and just being this supreme baby face out of nowhere. But now that Sami Zayn has turned on the Bloodline, has walked out with Jay, and looks like, there's some cracks within the Bloodline. That's all about loyalty and brotherhood. What to do with him? And I'm honestly at a blank here. So I want to throw it to you first, Jamal. What is your thoughts of how this a good issue should be resolved?
I think, and I know that it's not going to happen, but if it were me, I would have a very incredulous Roman, because he's top of the walk. He's the tribal chief, all that good stuff. And he understands that, he's going to have to face Cody at WrestleMania. But he's so egomaniacal that he says, you know what? Cody's a chump and Sammy's a chump. I'll face both of you, night 1 and night 2.
Okay.
But if Sami makes it to night 1, he'll have to run through the Bloodline at the Elimination Chamber. There's 4 guys, 4 pods in the chamber, yes. Plus
Correct.
1 more in the ring, who would be their special, heater to bring in there. So maybe you bring in a Jeff Cobb. Maybe you bring in somebody from New Japan, whatever that looks like. I don't know. I know you bring in, whatever. And then, of course, he has to run the gauntlet, beat the Bloodline, and go to WrestleMania to face Roman for real. I think Sami beating the Bloodline in the Elimination Chamber, with or without the help of Kevin Owens in Montreal, is going to be that moment for the year. If you want to recapture that WrestleMania 30 run that Bryan had, I think that's how you do it.
Whew.
And it's a similar run because, going through the Bloodline or going through Batista and Triple H, fine. But you also have the foundation there, because in the Elimination Chamber, he beats the first guy. Jey Uso lays down, I don't want no part of this, and rolls out. Jimmy, Solo, and Roman's, you obviously save him for last. You can build that entire match about and foreshadow the fall of the Bloodline or the tatters of the Bloodline. Sami obviously has to win in his hometown, moves on to WrestleMania, and then whatever needs to happen happens, and which of course sprinkles the seeds. Who does Cody face? Who does he want to face? Does he face Sami is it Sami versus Cody for the WWE Championship?
Don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that. Does Sami lose to Roman? And is Roman just in an empire of one? But there's so many different ways that you can go about it that I think that's, a lot of interesting possibilities. And also, to be fair, we're talking about the face of the company. The fans' voice would be Sami Zayn in this moment right now. They have 2 shoddy shows that they got to do this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Sami ain't going to make it as WWE champion. He can't go.
No, not a chance.
So that's also a thing too, because do they do Backlash this year?
Yeah, I seen it. Seen it in their video montage.
Right. So Backlash is going to happen a month after WrestleMania or so.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Sami wins at WrestleMania. Maybe he's champion for a month. You get that out of the way. Everybody has their feel good moment. Cody eventually wins and takes the baton the rest of the way. Goes to Saudi Arabia. Goes throughout the rest of the year. Has his moments, and we see Roman down the road at Survivor Series or something like that.
Yeah.
But Roman can take the summer off. He's earned it. After 75 years as champion, nobody's pinned him in 60 years. So, the summer of Rhodes, I mean, you see what I did there? The summer of Rhodes is happening.
Oh, they're going to play the hell out of that out any
I'm
way
just
they
saying,
can.
this is what it is. So I think that you have to, it would be a miscarriage of justice to not play up the fact that the pay-per-view is happening in Montreal, Sammy's hometown, Kevin's hometown, and but we'll obviously see what happened in 2 weeks. But damn, the go-home show is in the building. I mean, come on, you can't let that.
So, play is for keeps 20. Salute to you, my friend, for coming through. Thank you for watching. We're live each and every Thursday, 8 p.m. Norman Hemphill, I believe Cody's going to win. Yeah.
If they go to traditional route, Cody should win.
Yeah. And I obviously, the way I look at that by what you said, it's process of elimination to me for here. One, you want to make sure that the folks leave WrestleMania night 2 on a high note. So Roman can't win, considering you are building. You're not building. You have the ultimate baby face in Sami. and you have Cody Rhodes, which is the American dream.
Does any other match matter than Sami versus Roman?
Yeah, there's going to be other matches. I think
no. I'm sorry. Within the Bloodline, if Sami has to take on a member of the Bloodline, does any other match matter other than Sami versus Roman?
Honestly, at the end of the Royal Rumble, when everything happened at the end of the show with Sami and his turn and everything, the biggest thing that caught my attention is Jey Uso. And I think Jey Uso is the wild card in this story, because go back to the beginning of the Tribal Chief. Go back to when he first showed up, made the flip, won the title. Who was the first target? Who did he have to break first? Jey Uso. Jey Uso rolling out of that ring last Saturday was a very big deal in my mind, because in a lot of ways, to me, it felt like a full circle moment. Sami did what he never did. He buckled under the pressure and he, fell in line because of his brother and towed the line and all this. And now finally it's like, oh my God, he finally had a wake-up call. He rolled out of there. Now how they're going to play this, I don't know. But to me, the Roman Reigns story with the Bloodline started with Jey Uso. It could also end with Jey Uso.
Ooh, I love story time. Not
as a complete full circle moment.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Sami doesn't figure in that respect. He came in, just in the past, 8 months or so. I mean, think about it. He showed up with the Bloodline.
That's why
his own ass.
That's why I sort of the Daniel Bryan thing, because it's like it's overly big out of nowhere, So it's like I say, it's a good problem to have. Jaleel.
Yeah, it's a very good problem to have, because there's so many layers to this story, and it goes over 2 years now. That's like them doing that shit with Jey Uso. That Jey Uso didn't just jump on him. It's like, man, there is a backstory there. So
yeah. Jaleel was saying, honestly, it's about time for Roman to give up the belts. I mean, I don't know. I think Roman could go another year and people would still watch it. But yet, you just have good problems that are circling around him. And obviously, by being a good heel, you are able to create opportunities to make good faces. And Cody sort of being an organic one, but it's the anomaly of Sami Zayn just coming out of nowhere, getting over. I mean, I've always liked Sami Zayn when it was just pure wrestling. And even he's always had a gimmick. It's a product of Chikar, so but like I never was
that
true.
was a different guy.
Oh, right.
That guy retired, went down to Mexico.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So like obviously that's always been there. But at some point I just overly respected his wrestling. I think when I really was sold that Sami Zayn is a top tier wrestler was Battleground DC. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. I don't know what year that was, but that was definitely my match of the year. Still remember it. And then now he's got back to character. It's kind of like, all right, I guess he went from kind of annoying in this whole little whatever it was, and then this started to happen. I mean, either way, this guy's figured it out. He's figured it out, and for the flowers he's getting from the audience, it's well deserved. But as I said, it comes down to the process of elimination for me here. Number one, you do have the pay-per-view in Canada. You got to have a feel-good moment here. So something positive has to come out of this for Sami and Kevin Owens. You also have the Usos, who have not the unified, but both of the tag team belts. If they're not seeing eye to eye, how can they defend them? That's got to be
figured out.
Will they be the first to drop
think
their
that
titles?
That happens after the fact, though.
Maybe, but either way, that's something that has to be addressed right there. That's an issue. I know the Freebird rule just got thrown in out of nowhere when Sami defended the title, so you can obviously throw in Solo in there if need be. I think it should still apply. By the way, I just had a moment. I know y'all gonna be like, what am I talking about? I remember my issue with the Royal Rumble. When only 29 wrestlers came out for the men and Rey Mysterio never came out, I thought about it. Everybody's like, why didn't somebody came out? Don't y'all remember last year that Lana got hurt and then Becky Lynch came out?
Oh yeah, they did that before. Yeah.
I'm just confused why they just voided anybody coming out and it only being 29 people for the men. I still can't figure out how they decided that we're just not going to let anybody go out at all. But anyway, that's not there. And then obviously WrestleMania, you do have you want the feel good moment. You want people to go out on a high note, which to me says you can't have Roman win. You just can't.
Either way, Roman doesn't win. But the question now becomes, if they don't go all the way with Sami, and again, Sami was my wrestler of the year last year because he, not single-handedly, but he was instrumental in keeping this program going. It was starting to sputter. People were growing a little. It was growing a little bit too long of the tooth. Okay, cool. Sami kind of reinvigorates the program. And now, some months later, we are at the end of this, and we're trying to see it pay out in a big, big way.
Yeah.
The Usos and their tag titles and their implosion, that can happen later. Whatever Solo decides to do can certainly happen later. Whatever Roman decides to do, he's going to take a long vacation because he has to lose.
I mean,
one quick point. If you don't play this out, right now, and strike while the iron is hot, because Cody's going to be there for a while. They don't need to do Cody right now, but they can do that after the fact too, because Sami can't go to Saudi Arabia with the belt, so they can figure that out later. But as right now, I think this is an opportune time while we're talking about it, while we're trying to figure this out. This is the moment for Sami, for what it's worth, to have that WrestleMania moment. That's what WrestleMania moments are about.
Yeah,
like moments like this.
I tell you what would be even better if he did split the titles and he lost both nights, one to Sami, one to Kevin. That would be the most insane thing to happen. So Jill comes in and says, also, this is kind of off topic, but when Sasha and Naomi were still in WWE, I also thought it would be cool if they joined the Bloodline. What do y'all think? Not Sasha, but I know a lot of people have been screaming for Naomi, but guess what? Nia Jax is back. You're not feeling that? Because it's right there. It's right there.
There were definitely some backstage photos of Nia hanging out.
She know what it is. She know what it is.
So I'm sure she's campaigning for the idea.
Absolutely.
I mean, she's got merch, so
yes, she does. It makes sense to me. I mean, she's a heel. She may have more heat than anybody. She may have exceeded the heat that Eva Marie has once. Was once the top of the mountain.
That would be tough. I don't know about that.
You made me forget my point. I was about to bring up something else about and then the other thing is, how does Kevin Owens play into this? Does he stay to his traditional guns and he flips on Sami? Does he actually work with Sami and they create this bond? And then the biggest thing, because you have to imagine this was somewhere in the fine print of his contract where Cody Rhodes was said, I want to be not only a face, but the face of the company. Cody does not want to be booed, which means you cannot have Cody near Sami Zayn. It's not going to be a good look. Yeah, you just can't
right now.
Don't let the people choose.
Yeah, you cannot have the two. You cannot have Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes near each other. Because if it is a triple threat, which I kind of like that idea, you kind of want Cody to win. But if he don't, then what? I guess he can recover. But if he beats Sami, he's not going to come back from that.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's a lose-lose for Cody, because if he wins, it's the expected win. So, okay, fine, whatever. If he loses, then what was the point of giving him the keys? And we're stuck with whatever the result is, which is why I think that this is not something that needs to happen with Cody right now. Backlash is coming. They can do whatever they need to do later. I don't know when the next Saudi show is.
And you
just have to figure all that out later. But as of right now, the road leads to, with the storytelling. And that's one thing too. This isn't about just putting together a big match at the last minute with two names and getting on social media and calling Mountain Dew. They have the storytelling to back it up over the last definite few months, but years.
Yeah, Cody Rhodes is a big name that he won the Royal Rumble, so he's in the main event of it. So he's facing whoever's the champion is.
He should be in the main event.
You just can't have Sami in that same match. For our final topic here, coming to you, Will, now that we talked about all these different situations in terms of with Sami Zayn, yet Cody Rhodes, well, what does the end of the Bloodline look like?
Here would be my guess. The way the cards are falling into place now between Cody and Sami and Jay, and we just had it mentioned by Jamal that there has to be a feel-good moment for Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber. They're in his damn town. They're in Montreal. And we were just talking about someone else's town, who it is, Kevin Owens. I think the feel-good moment at Elimination Chamber will be Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens will get back together. They'll end up back together as a team, and we'll end up with them targeting the Usos. I think that's probably how we're going to keep him away from Cody. We're going to keep the storyline going with the Bloodline. And as hot as Sami Zayn has been, I think there might be enough confidence in that matchup, since it involves the Bloodline, that it might even main event the first night of WrestleMania. Usos versus KO and Sami for the tag titles.
Okay.
As your main event of night one, assuming they don't have Sami figured into, the Roman Reigns picture and all this. If they go with Sami versus Roman Reigns in a Elimination Chamber, who knows? We may find with that show so soon. I kind of get the feeling tomorrow night on SmackDown, they're going to have to really start playing their hand as far as what's going to happen. But Usos, Sami, KO, they all fit nicely together. And it keeps them away from Cody. Like we're saying, Cody and Sami is just, that's a disaster waiting to happen if you have them in the same orbit. So it's pretty tidy if you keep them together. And then if that you do that, then I think the story is the Bloodline loses all the gold at WrestleMania. And Roman goes on vacation.
Yeah.
And you have, they drop the Usos drop the tag belts, Roman loses the other belts, and it's like that's it.
Do you think there's an opportunity where Sami, Kevin, and Cody realize that there's a common interest here, and maybe they get on the same page to figure out how do they completely destroy the Bloodline once and for all? And Jay's still the wild card here. This does make Jay Rose sound even more interesting, because does he stick with his brothers or does he stick with his newfound brother in Sami? And does that make him sort of the unpredictability in all of these matches now?
Well, I think that there is that. And I also think that the wild card could be Cody. Yes, this is the absolute perfect opportunity for him to live his boyhood dream and all that good stuff too. But arguably the biggest heel on the SmackDown roster is it should be taking an extended break after he loses at WrestleMania.
Yep.
Why not replace him with Cody? Because when Cody turns on Sami and ruins his babyface moment in Montreal, and takes absolutely. And takes the WWE.
You understand that this guy hated being a heel in AEW. You understood that he got booed.
I understand that he didn't want to be a heel in AEW, but I also understand.
Why would you think he would want to say like, "Hey, yeah, please let me go over as a heel," because that's going to make everything right. He literally said uncandidly on Road to the Top that he doesn't want to come back as a heel. So why would he come back and be a heel with all of the positive montages and vignettes about his redemption story? For him to go over Sami, that doesn't make any sense.
It absolutely makes sense.
That's a lose for everything.
It makes sense because it's an opportunity. Because number one, nobody would see it coming. And number two, I do think that Sami should be in the title picture based on his past work with the Bloodline. That's the way that should lead. Whether they do a thing or not is what it is. But I also think that if Roman's going to step aside, then Cody could step in his place. And it's not necessarily that he's this monster heel, blah, 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 but he's basically saying the same thing that Roman says. I won the Royal Rumble. You didn't. That's my championship opportunity, not yours. And he's going to get booed out of the building. So if you give the people an opportunity to choose, they're more likely to choose Sami just because. So why not roll with that? I think I'm not saying it's going to happen. I also think it could be interesting if it did. And of course, it's a swerve. And I think people like a good swerve. But, with everything happening so quickly, I think that's also a thing, too. Things are happening really, really quickly because Elimination Chamber is in 2 weeks. And WrestleMania is at the end of the month.
I mean, let's listen to your same philosophy. This is why Rhea isn't going against Bianca Belair, because you're not going to have somebody who's being built as and although she's a heel, but she's so likable, you're not going to have her go against somebody else likable and realizing that one of them have to lose. Rhea not winning the championship is definitely not on everybody's bingo card. No one wants Bianca Belair to win to lose as well. So Charlotte's the easy guess here. This is why I like she automatically comes in as the baby face, as her redemption story of saying, you beat me, I owe you a receipt. Here we go.
And it's that booking that makes me not want to watch WWE because it's boring. Since we already, you just laid the groundwork. I'm not disputing the claim for the groundwork, but it's so formulaic that it's like cooking minute rice.
I mean, Cody Rhodes did win the Royal Rumble.
And wouldn't it be something because everybody's already setting the table for what they think it's going to be, and they didn't do that. Hot damn. Some actual creative decision making.
Yeah,
Cody. And the first thing you said is no. Well, you must watch WWE then.
Yeah, Cody came out at 30. We knew what time it was then, and the fact that you looked around, he's like, okay, Ricochet still has to come out 28. Oh, well, 29. Well, clearly Cody's 30 here,
right? And they set you up, and then they went a different way. I would like to see them do that. It would be how on WWE of them to do something different.
What's your thoughts, Will, before we wrap up the show for tonight on this?
I agree that it would be an interesting twist. And hell, like I was saying earlier, the most interesting part for me coming out of the Royal Rumble was the twist thrown at us about Jey Uso. So they are throwing some unexpected stuff here. They didn't just have Sami turn and then the whole bloodline just jumps on him like you would think, and they all just beat him down. They threw that little wrinkle in of Jey being like, oh, I don't like this. I can't handle it. He had his little traumatic breakdown and rolled out of there and, cried up the rampway, just overwhelmed by the whole situation. So they are throwing some twists and turns in here. So we might get something like that. Like we got 60 days. There's a lot of time they got to fill here. So it can't just be by the book, I think. There's going to have to be some twists in here. I think the main concern right now is Elimination Chamber is so soon. So I think, and they didn't do nothing on Raw with the bloodline at all. So SmackDown this week has to be heavy on the bloodline, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso. What the hell is going on with all this stuff? We got to get some answers on Fox Friday night.
And don't forget, as we mentioned, Elimination Chamber, the results of that has nothing to do with the title picture as well either. That's for the U.S. Championship, which makes that match don't have implications on what happens with Roman Reigns. But I will say this for my last thoughts quickly. The couple of events that I expect to happen is there has to be some level of declaration to split these titles, both the tags and the heavyweight undisputed Universal Championship. There has to be something to say these need to be split up, because I do not think when they go into their next season, after WrestleMania, that they still want these one person to be carrying both of these championships, especially when you have so many other folks on the horizon. You have Gunther.
We've gone a whole year with unified titles. I can't believe it. I figured that would not have lasted more than like maybe 6 months, and here we are a year later. You
have Gunther right there. I know he's the IC championship champion, but with him becoming a star that instantly, there's got to be other folks you can have to be considering. Yeah, Brock and Bobby laying around as well too. So there's other folks. Seth is still pretty hot. So there's going to be something that has to separate these titles. I think with Kevin in the picture, thinking about his, him being a former Universal, maybe that plays a part. And then ultimately you have these tag team championships that are held by two folks that are not eye to eye, which tells me that they need to be separated as well too. So I'm expecting some developments in which we see these titles being separated, and we'll see how that has to go. Anybody else has anything to add before we wrap up tonight?
Nia Jax, you're welcome.
Book it.
Hey, they're going to need an opponent for Bianca. So they got to figure that out. That the women's elimination chamber will be for the title shot at Bianca. So maybe Nia will end up in the chamber.
There are only 2 SmackDowns before Elimination Chamber, and the last SmackDown is in Montreal. So they kind of got to set the table nicely tomorrow.
Chelsea Green.
Who?
Chelsea Green.
Okay.
She's not from Montreal. She's from Toronto, right?
I don't think so. I could be wrong on that, but I'm not entirely sure about that.
Let me find out right now. She's from I just saw it. Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. So
near Vancouver.
Yeah. Anywho, folks, that's going to do it for our premiere episode back here at the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. We're live each and every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You all, thank you everybody that came in and chimed in live. You all can join us each and every week in the chat. Let us know your thoughts about each topic. Join in on the topic. Let us know what other things you would like for us to discuss. Do all of that. Be interactive with us, and you could be a part of the debate and discussion. But for Jamal, for Will, and for Nigeria, we're out. We'll see y'all back next week, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in.